International Women's Day is a day when we celebrate the progress that has been made towards gender equality. But it's also a day when we remember that there's still a long way to go in getting gender equality in terms of pay, in terms of opportunities, and even in terms of personal safety for women and girls. This year marks the 100th anniversary of some women getting the vote in the UK, and yet we still have a long way to go. This year's theme for International Women's Day is Press for Progress, and that reflects the idea that it's not something that women can change on their own. It's a whole of society change that needs to happen, and so we need men and women, businesses and governments all to get involved in making a real change and real progress.
For me, it's about driving to be just that little bit better, really, because I feel that over the last few years we've come a huge way in terms of getting to better gender equality, but just because it's good doesn't mean it's good enough, and it's about pushing for that final stretch to get true equality.
I see young women today dealing with things that I dealt with when I was their age, and we've got to do better. So this is about putting a lot of effort and a lot of momentum behind getting things better, so that as our kids grow up, girls and boys, they are going to be growing up into a much better space for all of us.
We really need to take action to ensure we're living in an environment where everyone is equal, everyone is treated the same, and everyone has the same opportunities. So it's a really important initiative.
It's about challenging gender stereotypes. It's about us supporting the man who decides to stay at home and be primary caregiver to his children, as much as it is about us supporting the woman who aspires to be 8th on the list of FTSE Top 100 companies. It's about making sure that regardless of gender, we are supporting one another's life choices, even when those life choices might look very different to what you might pick for yourself.
As a young woman entering the workforce, I think, and just entering, adult life in general, I think we really need to have change in so many different areas. Definitely in the pay gap, in terms of, the way women are sometimes described in certain situations, and certain barriers that just prevent women from being the best they can be, I think is a real reason to press for progress. And I also think that the whole movement that surrounds it, in terms of it being really like an actual push rather than something that's, with progress we're eventually going to get better. I think there's a real need for it to happen quickly. There's a need for it to happen now, and I think there's a need for pressure and community pressure to make that happen.
Definitely my mother. Mum was born in 1937 in northern Queensland. She was the first in her family to complete school, and she actually went on to train as a nurse and then a midwife, and has demonstrated to me throughout her life a great commitment to being the best woman she can be.
I think for me that's my mum and my grandmother. So my mum was a working mum for all through my childhood, and in that time my grandmother and my grandfather raised me at their home. I guess just always the strength that both of those shows and that both of those women showed in their unwillingness to sort of back down in the face of what were for them very different circumstances and times, as far as the degree to which they would be listened to or treated as equals, be that in their workplace, in their home, in all these sort of different contexts. So I think I'm just really, really proud of both of those women, who they are and how they helped to shape my experience.
A female role model I look up to is Lisa Wilkinson. I think what she's done recently by leaving a well-established career with Channel 9, purely because she wasn't being paid equal to her male counterpart. She left, made a bold and a brave decision. It would have been risky, it would have been scary, it would have been maybe confusing, but that's influenced me and it's encouraged me to do the same thing in my life, in my career, whether it be work or home or family. Not just accept things the way they are. If it isn't fair and if it isn't just, be bold, be brave, make a decision that might be risky, to again lead by example.
A female role model I look up to is Lady Gaga. I feel that she displays a lot of the values and morals that I hope to embody in my everyday as well as professional life. I think she shows creativity, integrity, respect and perseverance. as well as loyalty to her fans and her personal and professional brands. I feel that all we really have is our name and our morals, and they need to be maintained and reflected upon. And having somebody that you look up to is a good base for that.
I want to tell a slightly personal story about a very good friend of mine, Helen Kelly, who passed away last year. I attended the memorial service just a couple of days ago. And she was the head of programming and content for SBS here in Australia. And before that, she was one of the content producers at the BBC in the UK. Helen was an extraordinary person. She combined a fierce intellect and a huge passion for her business and her life in general, but with an extraordinary humanity, and that came out very much in all the speeches that we heard a couple of days ago. She had this amazing ability to make you feel when you were talking to her like you were the only person in the world that mattered. And while she was extremely successful and very well celebrated, she always made you felt like your story was more interesting, the things that you thought and that you believed were what really mattered. I find that very inspiring, and I would like to strive to be like Helen.
So gender equality has been a passionate interest of mine for many, many years. I've worked in social research for a long time, so I'm very aware of gender inequity. So the chance to be involved in something which is so positive, I think, was just extremely appealing for me. It's just wonderful to think that WPP is taking this so seriously.
I think it's something that's so important. It's been an issue for such a long time, and as we said, we've kind of got that momentum going forward. We're pushing equality for everyone. Just thought, there's someone who could potentially be on the wrong side of the fence, that we need probably more young men on here acknowledging it and actually embracing these values, and that way we can actually spread it, I think, spread the message a lot quicker.
We're young women, we're entering the workforce, and it just doesn't fly anymore, you know. Discrimination doesn't fly. And when I have these conversations with my friends and we're like, oh yeah, surely it's fine, surely by 2018 there's no gender pay gap. And we're having a discussion, me and my girlfriends, the other night at dinner about how it did still exist.
For us as a business, as Kantar, 2017 was really all about the awareness and even the education of the importance of inclusion and diversity. As we move to 2018, it all has to be about the accelerated implementation of actions. So let's stop talking about what we're going to do, and let's just start accelerating the actions that we need to put in place within our markets.